What I think we'll do here is we'll go through this presentation. This is a copy for you, John, that everybody should have. We'll go through this slide by slide. Let's go slowly through it because I understand there's possibly some confusion as to the options that are available to us, as well as to whether we elect a particular option or we decide not to do anything. So as we go through these, if you have questions, I think we should ask them and not wait till the very end. And let's see if we can get a better understanding of this. Okay. All right. So as Marisol just started the meeting, we're going to talk about a senior citizens exemption under the real property tax law number 467. And also the persons with disability exemption under the real property tax law 459C. Now, just keep in mind, we have these exemptions currently in place right now. This is going to be discussing what has come down really from the state, which is changing the definition of income in determining who qualifies for these two exemptions. Okay, so let's go to the next page here. All right. And some of this verbiage is lengthy, but I think it's important that we just go through it. So I'm going to read it here. So the New York State Legislature completely redefined income starting with the 24-25 tax year for both the senior citizen exemption and the disability exemption. The definition now more closely mirrors the definition of income for STAR, which is a school tax relief, by relying heavily on the federally adjusted gross income, line 11 on IRS Form 1040, plus various added income mandates and income exclusions. The base definition without any of the three potential options, which you see attached, is expected to increase the number of qualified applicants as certain forms of income under the old definition must now be excluded. The town of Islip is no longer permitted to include in income the following: non-federally taxed portion of any pension payments. The town is now only allowed to include in income the federally taxed portion of any pension payments. They're not allowed to include workers' compensation payments and also veteran disability payments. Any questions? Let's go to the next page then, okay? So the number of qualified applicants for these two exemptions is expected to grow, especially since the assessor can no longer include in income pension payments that are not federally taxed. However, there will be circumstances where previously qualified applicants no longer qualify. At this point, though, the numbers of the people who qualify cannot be quantified. Okay.
Let me raise a question.
Go ahead.
Assessor, would you mind if I ask that question? When would the town know that answer in terms of the number of people who would be qualified? After this tax year?
Because the definition of income is so drastic that in order for us to make that.
I'm sorry, can I just ask you to go to the podium and use the mic just so the people at home can hear us? No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Because the definition has changed so drastically, where the old statute listed what was income and what was not, and now we're going to more of a FADGI-based definition with mandated inclusions and exclusions, there's no way to determine what that number would be. I think the best way we would be able to is if we basically took all of the exemption applications from last year and recalculated income using the new definition, but manpower-wise, that was not something that we had the ability to do. I do. Under the old income definition, this is for Town of Islip townwide, because we had increased our maximum eligibility window. We went from the 29 to 37.4. We increased it by 21,000 in the Town of Islip. So the new window is 50 to 58.4. Under that change, our applicants for seniors went up by about 38%. So we had about 4,700 seniors last year. We sent renewal applications in November to those 47 seniors. But in addition, the state gives us a STAR report, which they did this year. And we call out from that. They have people that have filed New York State tax returns are then able to, the state will say, these are seniors that may qualify. And we take that list, we remove anyone that's getting the renewal application in November, and we send out another mailing, which is a courtesy. It's not a requirement. It's to assist making sure we can get every potential senior who may qualify in the exemption program. We sent out 4,400 of those applications within the last 2 months.
You say 44 on top of the 4,700?
We don't know who's going to apply. We really, but yes, 44 on top of the 4,700.
So typically, this would hurt our senior citizens who have saved all their lives and are now already retired. So people who are retired and they're drawing from their IRA or have an IRA and annuity accounts, that's now going to be established as some sort of income.
So you're speaking specifically to option 2?
Yes,
Do we
which is
wanna-
the one that I believe the town,
It's the one that I recommended to the town board.
last night, the Sachem board voted to do nothing.
And
Which
Bayshore
doesn't-
decided to adopt it.
which one?
Bayshore decided to adopt option 2.
Understood.
Can I just ask
What
a
does it mean
question
when you do
about
nothing?
option 2?
Absolutely.
So with option 2, do you have to, with option 2, do you have to apply to have the income added, or it just gets added automatically if that's the option that we choose to
It
adopt
gets
today?
automatically added if
Okay.
that's the option that a taxing jurisdiction decides to go with. Our office will be adding that through a special spreadsheet that we've created.
It just seems like we are not a school board that has any senior citizens on it. I'm sure that you're familiar with other boards do have senior citizens. Last year, we had a long-term board member who had left, and she was a senior citizen. And so it seems very hard for the 5 of us, in my opinion, because none of us are senior citizens. But if we speak to senior citizens, this is going to affect them. I understand how it could affect the young people coming in, but it feels like to me that this way of doing things is trying to push out our senior citizens, say to the elderly people, it's time to go, move wherever or go to a place that's for, 55 and older or whatever, and bring in young people. And I just don't feel comfortable with that because there are people who live on a very fixed income, especially our senior citizens and our elderly. And if they saved their whole lives for this, they should not be penalized because others did not. They're on a fixed income. They're not going to make any more, but now we're going to judge what they saved as income. I just can't get behind that. And
I have to agree. I feel like penalizing the elderly just because
So the way
it
I
doesn't
look
seem
at it,
fair to do it because, like Jackie said, they saved their whole lives, and now we're like, oh, you know what? Now we're going to have to make you pay extra taxes.
And
It seems punitive.
I
do
now
know
see,
what
though,
doing
why-
nothing one of the major
definition.
things that you need to look at, and the board can decide to do something different than what I recommended, obviously. But when we give an exemption to a body of applicants, it will also move that tax burden onto all of the other taxpayers. And in Connecticut, you have a unified rate, so it would be moving it onto all of your unified rate taxpayers. When it comes to the IRA disbursements, under the old definition, which was actually quite problematic, we were required to include the IRA earnings and annuity payment earnings. So now with this new definition, because we're relying on federally adjusted gross income for 4B and 5B for the annuity payments, for the IRA distributions and for pension payments. Pension payments are automatically included, okay? But we do know that with the new definition, we can no longer treat as income the non-federally taxed income payments. So we know that there's going to be a shift. The amount of that shift, we do not know. So on balance with the old exemption definition and the new exemption definition, most of the Assessors Association is referring to this as no longer a low-income exemption because many more applicants will qualify.
But
The numbers
these-
we don't know.
Okay, but this is the issue too. So we have senior citizens, we have elderly people. They do not have children in school. They are still paying school taxes. These are the same people who are paying for the younger generation's children's education. And they're doing so, most of them, with no issue at all, saying, I've seen it, I've spoken to a lot of them. They say things to me like, Jackie, we understand, we will, we want all of your guys' kids and everyone's kids to have a good education. But the reality is they're paying the same taxes as I'm paying, and I have 2 children in school. And now we're asking them, hey, you saved an IRA money, you saved annuity money when you were working. These are people that could be retired 20, 30 years already. But now that money that you're living off of, that nest egg, that you do not have anything extra coming in on your fixed income, we're going to use that as income. And I really strongly am against it. And I really strongly now see, I know, April, you had said last year at something, you had said you had felt that people should have children in the district when they ran for the district. When they ran, you said, oh, people that ran for the district it would be better if they had people
Yeah.
still in the district. You said that.
Yeah, no, I did, and I
Okay.
actually have told people recently that now being on the board, I realized I was wrong.
Well, you're wrong because of who's going to run this year and you're going to support.
No,
that
no,
doesn't
no,
have
no, no,
children.
no, no.
But going back to what the true statement is, we need a senior citizen on this school board. I now see it more than ever, and because one is gone, and maybe that was the one thing that she added to this board, but not having somebody who could actually tell us how they actually would be affected and weighing in is an issue. Because we're going to sit here and we're going to make decisions for our elderly community and then watch them all have to leave. And I really wish that we would have had, before today, an open meeting where we would have allowed people to come in, whether it's from either side of how this would affect them, and have it.
Can I ask you a question? If we do nothing, what actually does that mean? Does that mean we actually adopt 1 or 3 instead of 2? Because we do nothing, something does happen. There's no nothing.
Okay. There are 8 different options, or not options, but there are 8 choices a taxing jurisdiction can make before March 1st. You can either adopt all 3 options, which, maybe we skimmed over. I don't know if we want to get back to. You could adopt none of the options, which is the do nothing. You can adopt option 1. You can adopt option 2. You can adopt option 3. You can also adopt option 1 and 2,
Right.
or 1 and 3, or 2
Can
and 3.
you define what nothing means?
So
we
what
understand
nothing
that.
would mean is that there is a guaranteed shift that will occur from those people who are granted the exemption to all other taxpayers, because the assessor will not be able to include the federally taxed IRA distributions where we are obligated to include the federally taxed pension payments. So we would absolutely not be allowed to include that information. So that would make more applicants. That would mean, because the income is reduced, that would be greater number of qualified applicants and a greater shift of exempt value was taxable, is now exempt. So the rest of the taxpayers must pick up that difference. The rate will increase as a result of that. The extent of that increase is not known.
In terms of the income level and the actual exemption percentage, I did some research, and is it about 55,000 and below for a 20% tax exemption?
So with regard to Connectquot's income levels, you have a different category than the town of Islip. The town of Islip and the county have both adopted the maximum income eligibility limits. So we went from the previous maximum of 29,000. If you had 29 or under, you would have a 50% exemption, up to 37,400. And when the opportunity came, the town of Islip and the county both increased their maximum eligibility limits up to the full 50 to 58,400. From that increase, we saw, at least in the town of Islip, an increase in applicants of 38%. With this new definition of income, it's not clear how many applicants will qualify. However, we have a lot of pensions in the district, and by having us remove from income the non-federally taxed portion of everybody's pension payments, that's automatic, that's a big change. We're going to have many more applicants qualify.
Well, here's the thing too. I understand that with the pension system. I work for a job that we deal with pensions, not for nothing, but it's still, to make $29,000, to make under $29,000, that's what you're saying is the town?
The town is now at 50,000
At 50,000, okay,
to
because I have the max.
58,400. And there is an opportunity for a district
So why
to
would they
increase
then-
their maximums, but I would wait until next year.
Why
I'll
would
tell you
they
why.
then, can I ask, why are they looking to go after people's earnings for their IRA and annuity? Money that people put away specifically for retirement, specifically because you know you're not going to get raises in salary like you get salary increment raises when you're working actively. So now we're going to tell retired people, you put away for an IRA, not everybody did. You put away in an annuity account, and now we're going to use that annuity and IRA account against you. It just seems to me very politically driven.
So it's not politically driven, and what the board decided and how they came up with that decision is really not my purview to discuss here. However, I can tell you that under the old definition of income, we were required to include anything in an IRA account, the growth, the earnings. So every year we had to have those 1099s with the information to show how much were the earnings. It was a little bit of an odd way of looking at it for those annuities and IRA accounts because it wasn't really income that was earned by the taxpayers at that time, right? Until they make that disbursement. Now, with the changing of the definition to FAGI, all three forms of federally taxed income retirement benefits under option 2 would be income for these particular exemptions. So you're treating neighbors that have IRA accounts that might take a $60,000 annuity payment distribution out, the same as you would be treating somebody who has the IRA distributions in the same amount, the same as you have if you have somebody with a federal pension, that federally taxed portion of the pension.
Can I ask
Everything's the same.
just real quick, if the board decides today to do nothing, this can be revisited next year? We're not locked into this option?
You're not
for-
locked into anything you do today. You do have to be considerate of some of the factors that might come into play. If the board does nothing this year, any applicants that do qualify because the IRA distributions and annuity payments have not been included in income for school district purposes, it will be very difficult then at that time next year to say, we're having a hearing or we're going to change that option. We're going to now require that to be included as income. Just on it
When
from,
you say difficult, can you define?
Only in that, I can tell you, we'll have taxpayers come to our office and they'll say, well, why is this no longer, why is this included as income this year? It wasn't included last year.
Okay, but it wasn't
And then-
included the year before either, and it wasn't included because it was only just changed, and you just said base.
I'm just saying that it will be an impact on the inquiries made to your board.
I would actually appreciate any and all inquiries, especially from all sides, because again, this is another issue this board has. We're not very diverse when it comes to finances. At one point, we had an accountant on the board. We've had other people who are financial people. We rely on our business official who's excellent, but still, it's very nice when you have somebody amongst the five of you that understands this. We have you here especially because this is foreign to a lot of us as we're reading it. And not for nothing, but when I was told this morning that Sachem said do nothing, their district is very much larger than ours. Their district is not in the same financial place as us. Connecticut is a very unique place, not to say they had budget issues a few years ago. We haven't had that. We actually at one point a few years ago had too much money in our reserves and we had to use. Not for nothing, but I just feel like we're different. Every district is different, but at the same time, Bayshore took it, Sachem did nothing. I feel like doing nothing and revisiting this next year, which is what I was told they're doing, would be our best option. Are there other school districts that did adopt this, or is it only Bayshore and Sachem that this affects because of?
No, there's a list. There's a
I'm
list
sorry, I
on
didn't
our
look through it. I
paperwork.
got in late because of the train.
It looks like Central Islip, Sayville, East Islip, Brentwood, and Hauppauge have adopted option 2.
8 out of 12 school
So
districts.
also,
adopted
because we
option
don't know how many persons it would affect in our community, we don't even know how many people excluding the IRAs would affect. So at the end of the day, it might not even have a major impact on us.
So one of the difficulties for me as an assessor is if you were to say to me, can you run me a tax impact statement next year? If you do nothing, the only thing I can look at, because your income amounts are also different than the town of Islip, you have two major parameters that are very different. So I can't share with you what might happen if you were to adopt option 2 at that point.
It seems crazy how districts will tax residents separately. It feels like another way that New York State divides people. Like it doesn't seem. Yeah, I don't know why a school board would make this decision and not the town. Why would they put it on us?
So
I mean, last
tell you,
time they don't put
unfortunately-
anything on the board. They normally take it out of our hands to begin
So
with.
when it comes to exemption administration, you're a taxing jurisdiction and you are granted the authority to determine which of these 3 options you would like to consider. And that goes for the county and that goes for the town. And we have another statewide volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker exemption, which I will be discussing with school board superintendents in the fall, I hope. That actually also gives the rights to the fire departments to adopt local options as well. And we have about 24, 26 fire departments. So it is a very, staggered, tiered process. And I can tell you, this is the first time I've seen anything quite this extensive. We will be calculating, my office will be calculating income differently right now for county purposes and town. And clearly, a couple of the school districts that have gone with the the do nothing approach, which is really doing something. It's making an active decision to not adopt certain options.
That's what I actually need to understand. Basically, so you're saying whatever we do, the burden goes on somebody. Because as I understand it, the more people that are exempt, so they're going to be taxed less. But the budget still needs to be, you still have a limit. You need to, you have your budget. We still have to have make that money so the remainder of the community picks up, they absorb that
Yes,
cost.
so whatever that amount that you decide to levy, that
It
needs
gets
to be
absorbed
picked
by
up.
everybody else.
That means
So-
the tax rates will go up on those individuals who are not receiving
Okay.
the
So
benefit.
so that would happen if we do nothing, but then they're giving us these options, which also affect people. So it's, I don't know, I kind of, in my opinion, I think it's kind of crazy that we're sitting here and we're being told, well, you do nothing, people get affected, you do something, people get affected. And that's really, like you said, we're a school board,
It's a pick
coming
your
to us.
poison. It's a pick your poison
Basically,
kind of
that's
thing.
how it kind of sounds to me, that whatever we pick.
But the problem
Yeah.
is, at least, and again, we may have people coming in here with pitchforks at the next board meeting for me for this, but as people that have the ability, as younger people, to work and establish raises and establish the extra money, and there are ways, we are asking people that could really be 80, 90 years old, hey, this is your nest egg. We're now going to take it and we're going to tax you more. And they don't even have children in the district that they're already paying for. Like, I can't see harming. I really don't want to see anyone get harmed. And the way I feel is, for the last 10 years, you guys haven't done this. So for the last 10 years, it's just been we've done nothing essentially. Now we're going to do something, and it's going to pick someone to hurt.
Brand new New York State legislation that was enacted as part of the 2023 New York State budget bill. So it is brand new. This is the very first year that our office will be determining income under this brand new definition, plus with the obvious differences between how the county wants income defined, how each school district wants income defined.
Can you tell me who decided that the school districts would make this decision instead of the town?
That would be the New York State Legislature, because that's how the legislation is written.
Okay. Also, I just want to say that people have reached out on both sides, elderly and, the working class, I'll say. And of course, both sides are saying the same thing. The elderly do not want, they want this, they want to stay the same, that they're, not going to be taxed on their extra income. And then the working man is saying this is unfair because it's going to distribute to all of us. No, right.
It already has been for the
Right,
last
it has, but this,
umpteen years.
right,
But
she's
this is a
saying,
brand new
right.
exemption, brand new income definition, and it is guaranteed to be shifting with a no action
Right.
option will shift more exemption obligations it'll take it from those people who are, now they can get the exemption, and now everybody else has to pick up that difference.
Right, so if last year was 5,000, it could be 10,000. She doesn't know the number. So if we only distributed 5,000, it could be a lot more.
But that's why you do nothing this year, and then next year, it's harder to walk back something you put into effect than do nothing and put something into effect next year if it's something that we see after there's actually established data, since it clearly states the numbers cannot be quantified. If they can't be
No, I
quantified at the
agree.
moment,
But-
we're going
think
into
you
this
said they
blind,
can't after.
and I'm not willing to harm our senior citizens and our elderly people that live in the district. I'm not willing to harm the working class people either. But again, like I said, what is the percentage that the working class people are going to have? They're already having it the last umpteen years. So it's,
No, I agree with what you're saying. I just wanted to put it out there that both sides have reached out. But what you said, though, is when Marisol asked you about the data, you made it sound like you won't be able to even give us that data next year.
I'll tell you the reason why. It's because the town of Islip's income options are much higher than Connecticut right now, right? And we define income differently. Same thing with the county. If you decide to do nothing, same thing with the county. Their income eligibility limits are at the highest amount, but the way they define income would be different than doing nothing as well, because they did option 1 and 3. So I have to compare apples to apples with only one change in order to give you the data that you would be looking for next year.
So we're having this discussion, and at the end of the day, we don't know how many people in our district even have IRAs or annuity payments or pensions. It might be a very small percentage of people. It might be a large number of people. So if we do nothing and then next year we adopt a different option because we don't know what those numbers are and the town isn't able to provide them for us.
And I don't understand how I'm so confused. Again, we only just got this, so people know in the audience walking in, I have not seen this until, okay, so, and I obviously walked in late coming from the train not working. I am just trying to find out what exactly, so we have now Suffolk County adopting something that the town is not adopting. Is I right? It says the town of Islip only adopted option 2. Suffolk County did not adopt option 2. But now Suffolk County adopted option 1. The town of Islip did not adopt option 1. This makes it even more confusing. Like, so now Suffolk County as a whole, which is Suffolk County, and no, then you know what you say? Go to your school board and advocate for change. Advocate for them to adopt. That's what I would say.
Are you able to speak to why the county went one way and why the town went another?
I can tell you, there were two approaches. I can't tell you what was in the head of the legislators, but I can tell you the impact. The county decided to give the largest benefit to senior citizens, to the potential detriment, though, to all other ratepayers. Whereas a different approach was taken at the town level, but predominantly, if you read the resolutions at the town level, it was also to ensure that 3 forms of federally taxed benefits, retirement benefits, would all be also similarly treated. So you're treating your neighbor that has the annuity distribution the same as you're treating your neighbor with the IRA distribution, and the same as you would treat somebody with a pension, all federally taxed, all income under FAGI, all the same. So what option 1 does, and I'm really, as far as the general definition of FAGI, without any options, would require the assessor to take line 11, which is the federal adjusted gross income, and then we have to make some adjustments that are mandated. One of them is to include any non-federally taxed Social Security benefits. So we would be including the gross Social Security benefits, everything that's on line 6B and everything that is the difference between 6B and 6A. That's how the old definition used to be. So the county, by taking that option, has also expanded the potential applicants that may qualify, because now those gross benefits we can no longer include. So that, for county purposes, there will be a change. So you can have an applicant come in and they may obtain a town exemption to a certain extent, but they may attain a larger exemption at the county level because certain types of income can not be included that used to formally be included under the old definition. As far as option 3 is a very administratively difficult option for an assessor's office to administer. Our office, however, sent out to all of the 4,400 applicants who may qualify, because the county did adopt this option, and we gave them a worksheet for them to fill out, which would show in 2022 what they paid, but which was unreimbursed medical and prescription drug expenses. And so they do have the option to fill that out for the county exemption. But I will tell you, we had somebody come in with a stack this high, and they wanted us to go through 2012 through current. And we had to say to this senior, we're sorry, we don't have the staff. We have 400 applicants coming in daily lately. We don't have the staff to sit down and go through this paperwork for you. we will sit down and help them fill out their exemption application. But on that portion for the Suffolk County portion, we do not have the staff at this point. Just do not. Everything would come to a halt. We would never get our assessment roles finalized.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys may need some extra staff with this, because now you're gonna have the senior citizen exemption and the persons with disability exemption, and if it's confusing, 5 board members from a school board that are trying to understand this, I can't even imagine if I'm an elderly person or a person with a disability who's trying to now understand that Suffolk County adopted 1 in 3, or, you know, the Connecticut adopts whatever or doesn't adopt anything, and then you have the town adopting number 2. It is so confusing that honestly, I feel for you guys, because I don't know how you can even, how they're even gonna do this
And right now, we are not able to process any of our applications until we know what each school district is doing.
And
Because you can
To
understand-
be honest and fair to us, how are we supposed to make a decision on what's going to be easier for the town? We have to make a
Oh,
decision
no,
what's
you
going to
have
be
to make, of
best
course.
for our community
Of
and
course
our
you have to.
citizens. Yeah, because I mean, if you're telling us that you don't have the staffing, and I mean this in the nicest way, how is that our fault?
I never said.
You know,
that-
somebody would have to
I just
provide
said
the
as far
staffing
as
for the town to be able to help these seniors and or explain to them what is happening.
Oh, we have, trust me, we have a lot of hand holding. I had a senior come in with flowers, which I cannot accept. I cannot even take a bottle of water. So I said to him, I cannot take them. Well, if I leave them here, will your office take them? No, we cannot take anything, not even a bottle of water. So he said, well, can I give it to one of those other seniors that are waiting? I said, that is your choice. I said, but you can't give it, because he wanted to give it to me and wanted me to then give it. I said, then it's a gift from me to them. You pick somebody out and you make that person happy. This is incredibly difficult to explain to seniors, but I can tell you that our office is doing the very best it possibly can. And as far as having the ability to do and go through, the worksheet is not difficult for the option 3. It's very straightforward, but we can't sit through somebody's stack of paperwork like this.
where can we find that on the website? Is that where it is?
If you Google it, it's on there.
Okay.
It's fine.
Because I was gonna say, I'd like, Jesse, if you could print a copy, a hard copy for me?
If we chose option 1, 2, or 3, and then decided after we realized how many people applied or didn't apply or didn't qualify, can you go back and do nothing next year and go revert back to?
So I don't want to answer that question as it's a legal question. I would be afraid to answer that question because it hasn't been broached. It hasn't come up.
But we can do nothing now and then choose an option next year.
My
That,
understanding from Sachem
that is something we can
they
do.
had legal-
Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I've heard.
Basically the opposite of what Brian said, but we can do nothing this year and then see how many people, because this is without, and I don't know exactly whose fault this is, but without knowing how many people, we can't quantify whatever it was that we said before, without knowing, this is very difficult for any of us to really decide without having those numbers.
I do
But so we can
understand.
do nothing this year, and then once we have that information, get those numbers, revisit it next year. It might be a little more difficult, but that is something that can be done. correct?
I actually, that's why I liked what Sachem did. I like, no disrespect to the other districts, they have their reasons, maybe they had more information provided. I have no idea how they all made their decisions. But based on our district and knowing that our decline in enrollment is that I was told a few years ago, probably 2 years ago, that it was a direct reflection of that we are an older community at this point. There is much more older people staying in their homes rather than moving out of state, moving out of Connecticut. I mean, that's a valid point to say. We've lost over 1,500 students, since 2007. So if that's the case, from 2007 to now, you either have people in homes that don't have children, or you have older people in homes whose children already have moved out.
And we're not looking to have people leave the
No,
district.
and I have to be honest with you. The other night, that's how I felt. I said that. I said that I felt that this is, and I don't like it. It seems to me, and I'm not blaming your office or you, but it seems like you're saying it's coming from more of legislature or whatever, that it's a political option that is only, it brings in younger people, younger families, and older people might want to.
Through the Assessors Association, it is actually making it much easier for applicants to qualify for this exemption, especially with the pensions now being limited only to the federally taxable portion, and other forms of income that we can no longer include. So it's described by many assessors as no longer being a low income exemption.
Why wouldn't Suffolk County then accept all three? Why didn't the town of Islip accept all three? I'm just
Well, every
trying to
board,
understand.
just like
It seems
the, you
crazy
know,
that
we have a
one
school-
accepted 1 and 3 and the other one accepted number 2. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't. If none of them are gonna, if it's not gonna hurt people and it's only gonna benefit people, then one wouldn't
So-
take number
so-
2 and the other one take 1 and 3.
So you
it's
have to
direct.
think,
But
you have to
that's
think
not-
of it
that's
this
out of our
way.
control too, right now.
Each,
But it
what she's
seems out of
saying
our
is
conference,
because-
so how do
because-
we make that decision?
Right, I totally get it. It's-
so each
Like if the
decision.
town and the county can't even agree,
Right.
how are we supposed to get to a consensus?
You know what? You're a different board, you have a different mindset, and you will make whatever decision is appropriate for your constituency.
That's hard to do when
So-
you don't know how many
So
people are
the,
being
so the
affected.
town made one decision and the county made a different decision. I understand your point about whatever decision you do make, we will have to administer. That's what we do. We administer exemptions. As far as option 3, though, it's a very easy worksheet, and we do request that our seniors and disabled individuals fill that out on their own and bring it to us. But we do sit down and fill out exemption applications. I've sat down with seniors myself.
Nobody probably asked this, but may I ask, I don't even know if you know this answer. What does Nassau County do? Is this in?
I don't know the answer.
Okay, and what are other, this is just for town of Islip?
I do know the answer on some towns.
Okay,
Brookhaven did adopt option 2 only.
How about Babylon? How about?
Babylon did 1 and 3. They did the same approach as Suffolk County. Smithtown adopted option 2. I do not know about option 3, but I know for option 2. Huntington, I know, did option 2, and I know they did option 3 because they previously had option 3 in their exemption. So they retained that option of medical offset, medical expense offset.
Bob.
So what
on
does it
your
mean?
pa-
I'm sorry, April. I just had.
You go, you
first.
go, you go, you go, you go.
What does it mean if the town adopts one of the options and now as a community we adopt a different option? Doesn't the town supersede the community when it comes to
It does
filing
not.
taxes?
With regard to exemptions, you're a taxing jurisdiction and you have the opportunity to make whatever options you wish. With regard to my administration, if I have an applicant in Connecticut apply, and if the board decides to do nothing this year, I will be looking at income one way for county, one way for town, and one way for school.
Good, so
And then every school district is different. So
they made it so difficult for you.
it was not,
I know, I said they made it, not you, the state, right? So
That,
Bob,
that 4,400 applications that you sent out last year.
that we sent out recently, those are to people that the state, New York State Department of Taxation and Finance gives us a STAR report. And on that report, it says, assessor, based upon all of the current eligible maximums, which the town now has, which is 50 to 58.4, we think that this additional pool of senior citizens who have filed their New York State tax returns may qualify.
Oh, my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Town of Islip, townwide.
so Bob, on your page in your presentation, it states here, if we do nothing, the guesstimate amount is that the tax impact of $15. That's overall only $15 per person, the tax will go up? I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. Yeah, that's why, right, so it's right there, Bob.
Oh, I didn't see that. So in other words, if we left it the way it is, all of us
Well, I just have to
would
make
be
sure
taxed
I'm reading that
$15. If
correctly.
that's
I
right,
will-
I mean,
I will not, I don't want to make any disrespect to anyone who made that assumption. I did hear it at one of the other town board presentations. That is not something that can be determined.
But so,
Because don't forget, the number of applicants that a school might have this year for, actually, let me go back, for 23, 24, under the old definition of income,
that's why I wanted our community to know.
No, I
We have
think
this
it says it's not a guesstimate that should, a figure that should be relied on.
oh, it
Guesstimate that
definitely
amounts to
cannot be
nothing
relied on.
Might have an ultimate tax impact. So this is our guesstimate. This is our might be number.
but we would know
No.
this year, wouldn't we know this year, by the end of next year, what it did cost this year, other people.
You will know this year at some point, hold on, what the impact of doing
No,
nothing did for
April, that's not how
your
it reads.
constituents in
Read the
your
rest of the
district.
sentence.
But I would not be able to share with you information for next year to say, okay, if Connecticut decides to increase their maximum eligibility limits, what impact would that be? Because there would be,
But this came from the town.
But
So
I'm
if
saying
the
that even
town
if
is given
15
this information, how can we not rely upon it?
oh no, that should say, that says it should not be relied on.
It's saying it's still a guesstimate, but don't rely on it. So it could be
came from the
$25.
town.
That actually came from,
Thousands, not 20.
Yeah, I mean,
the
Hey,
West
let-
Islip presentation where a board member tried to come up with an impact to the rest of the taxpayers if they did nothing. You cannot determine what that value is.
Hold on, Bob, let me ask a question. Where did this come from, this whole packet?
Most of this came from your office.
A lot of it looks familiar, but
I mean, I look at it like this. I do look at it like this. If we do nothing and this never even existed, we would be doing nothing anyway. So going 1 year forward and saying, we're not kicking the can. I'm not about kicking the can down. That's not my cup of tea. I'm also not about sweeping stuff under rugs and holding the rug down. That's not, but this is the kind of thing that we should have data on.
But Jackie, if we do nothing, there will be changes because they change the guidelines. So doing nothing does make a change.
No, but what it's doing is, it doesn't make a change from how we were gonna go up anyway. We were gonna go up, Brian, anyway. But what I'm saying is, now to just choose these people, this selective group of people and say, hey, this is what's gonna happen, when we don't even know. And if the guesstimate is $15, and again,
There's
maybe
no
it's 50.
$15.
No, maybe it's whatever.
No, you
We
can't
will
make that-
know
you can't
by
make that
next year. Are you
determination.
telling me for 1 year, you wouldn't wanna get the data?
We don't know that we'll know next year.
Well, she just said that she would know. If you guys listen, she just said,
The West Islip
well,
presentation.
she just said that by, how long would it be before we will know what the constituents, how this affected the constituents if we did nothing?
If you do nothing, you will know sometime this year. You will not be able to determine, however, what will happen if you then decide to increase your maximum. You will be able to decide if you do option 2 like the town, if you also increase your maximum to the highest. Because you can't have two things that are different when you're looking at the tax rate impacts. Right.
I understood the 29,000 to 50,000. I understood that. But that was my point, is doing nothing without having legal here, without knowing if you go into it, we don't know if you can come back out. But we do know that if you do nothing, because last night they had legal guidance, if you do nothing, you can go into it. That was legally told. So, I mean, if
You can legally go into it. As far as if I received a resolution, and I'm only saying this because I'm currently sitting as an assessor, if I received a resolution next year saying, like, let's say you decide to do option 2 this year, and then you say, oh, we don't want to do it. I would effectuate that resolution as a rescind. I have no problem with doing that. However, whether or not that might impact some other taxpayer being upset with that decision, and whether or not that's something you'd need to talk with your attorney to see if it's something that they can do.
Are we ready to vote?
I am.
I am too.
Does anybody have any further questions before I ask if we're going to put a resolution forward? All right, Brian, if you had the option, would you choose?
I would choose to adopt option 2 based on the least amount of impact to the majority of our community.
Okay. I would choose to do nothing. Ms. Napolitano?
I would choose to do nothing at this point and revisit it next year.
Ms. DiLorenzo?
I would choose the same, to do nothing, to revisit it. We have that option to look at it again. I just need more solid numbers as to how many people will be affected. I need that information, that data.
Ms. Iannatelli?
I agree to do nothing and look at it again next year.
Okay. So at this time, the board is not putting a resolution on the table, and we are opting to stay status quo and do nothing. I do thank you for coming and answering our questions. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And
Thank you.
obviously, anything that I can do to assist as you go forward, Bob will always reach out to me. I will give whatever data is available. It does make it difficult, as you know, with the two, comparing apples to apples. So it is a little bit, but you'll see. We'll all see.
Yeah, we will see. Thank you. I do appreciate your time. Can I please have a motion and a second to adjourn the February 29 meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much,
All
everyone.
right. Thank you for inviting me.